Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
James, introduce our guest as we approach the halfway point of Correspondent Week.
I shall. Welcome to Thursday, everybody. And also welcome to the Pedro Neto Podcast. Let me introduce you to our Wolves correspondent, Bradley Parker. How are you, Bradley?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks, James. Yeah.
Good man. Shall we get into it? A gift, a trap. What is he, mate?
A gift. I don't understand that when I saw that week on Twitter. Everyone's like, he's a trap. I was like, what more? I forgot how good he was.
Well, for 5.5, does it matter?
No, he's
not
the same.
Not really, does it?
It's like he's come back the same player. So he's just an easy pick. He's on set pieces. He's our best attacking player. He changes the whole dynamic of the attack. Everything's quicker. That makes a big difference. Because
has he genuinely come back to his? I'm going to have to say pre-COVID levels, aren't we? It's been that long, really.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, just watching him play, it's great again.
So is he in your squad at the moment, Brad?
Yeah, he won't move unless he's injured.
Suj?
No, and I'll tell you why, and you can just poo-poo all my arguments, but I feel like that spot, whether you've got a midfielder at 5.5, 6, you can take a punt on somebody at that kind of bracket. And there's recency concern about obviously injuries and would he stay fit and what have you. When he played the full season, I think it was 124 points he scored. What was that? I'm just looking here. 5 goals, 8 assists, 125 points, 24 points that season. It's a decent return, but it's only one season that he did that, and then he's been missing for so long. I've got Jesse Lingard in at 6 million, and that may well change after the end of his podcast if it is the Pedro Neto podcast. And I haven't watched any of your preseason games, and I haven't seen what form he's come back in. So for me, there's no doubt about the ability of the player. There's no doubt about his explosiveness and how good he is. I just don't know if it will translate into points, and I'm not sure how much of a punt I want to take on that 5.5 million spot. What's interesting me, though, Brad, is your comments on how he's playing and the form that he's come back in more than how it will translate. If you say that he's come back in good form and he looks in good shape, then that interests me a little bit. And I think the other thing is, and I don't want to distract from the Neto conversation, but if Jimenez is out, is Neto going to get pushed further up? And does that mean he's going to be playing up top, which makes him an even bigger option? Like if you said to me Jimenez out for the first 3 or 4 weeks, then I'm actually even more thinking, yeah, I'll probably will go with Neto.
I think they might shove Hwang up front, unfortunately, if that was the case.
Where are we at with Jimenez injury-wise, do we think?
They've not said anything.
Yeah. At time of recording, we don't know. Bottom line,
not
for the
said
listeners'
anything.
benefit. And we are pre-recording this on, what day is it? Is it Wednesday?
It's Wednesday today,
Wednesday.
Mate.
Thank you. So we haven't got the information at this moment in time. Where do you expect him to start, Brad? Are we talking right of the front three, left of the front three, 10, right in a 4-2-3-1, right and left in a 4-2-3-1? What are we expecting? Left.
It'd be pretty fluid between him and Podence and Gibbs-White. That's what I'm liking. There's a lot of combinations going on that have just sped up how we attack. Like so far in pre-season, I've been impressed massively.
So what we saying? Likely then Neto left, Podence right,
Gibbs-White central, Gibbs-White right.
Gibbs-White on the right.
They'll just keep swapping positions.
Okay, so they can rotate basically.
Yeah,
it's fluid. That's fine. And do you know what? It's nice to hear that. After last season, we spoke about it, particularly towards the end of last year. I was quite strong with you in saying I think he's got to change to a back 4. That's now going to happen, isn't it?
It's been long overdue. We dried up. It's easy to play against us in the back 5 now.
So are we likely to see a different Wolves? Because we kind of flip-flop from, hugely defensively solid. We knew throughout last season it probably wasn't Bruno Lage's favoured system, but he changed it quickly in pre-season last year because he thought he didn't have the personnel. So why is personnel different now? Because I think it's fair to say the squad's not hugely different.
No.
It's just Nathan Collins, right? And Gibbs-White's come back from loan. Other than that, and obviously Neto is fit. Other than that, it's the same squad, right?
Yeah. No Fabio Silva either.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the same squad, but less if you take out Fabio Silva, because you've obviously let him go out on loan, which is surprising when you're light up top.
Yeah, when they let him go, I thought, oh, they've already got somebody in then. Obviously not. And I don't understand how they're running a club like that. You should have somebody ready.
Well, the reality is, and this does impact Neto, because I know Suj is saying, it would maybe interest him more. But actually, when you look at Neto, and for his price at 5.5, the assists are probably as important as the goals, really. And historically, it does look like he'll get a few more assists than goals. Someone's got to finish the chances. And as it stands, Wolves could go into game week 1 with no forward. We don't know the Jimenez situation. What's he going to do if Jimenez is out, Brad, do you think?
Well, Juan Gay played a game in pre-season yet either. So you're not he might stick Podence as a false 9, which sucked against Crystal Palace. I'd probably, if he has to play a false 9, I'd rather probably Gibbs-White play up there, because he did do that for Sheffield, I think, on a few times.
Don't call him Sheffield, mate. Tom will come straight for you, mate.
Yeah.
Sheffield United.
He's not here anymore. It's all right.
He reckons he'll be back next year. He's literally DM'd me yesterday. Oh, I want to be back next year, mate. It's up to your lot, isn't it, mate? You're not big on Huang at all, are you?
Nah, he dropped off massive. Unless that military training in South Korea has done some magic shit to him, then I'll be surprised.
Okay. Come back to Neto, do a bit of a circle. Is he the best, in your opinion, 5.5 million midfielder in the game? Firstly.
Top of my head, from what I can remember of the prices, yes.
So, fair to say definitely better than Podence?
Yeah, because what's Podence made out of?
I know, sure. But if he's potentially going to start false 9, is that interesting?
No, because when I've seen him play that position, it just doesn't work for me.
I think we can all agree he's definitely better than Ruben Neves, who 5.5 seems strange that it's the same. Even though we know that there'll be a little bit of consistency there with the long ranges and stuff.
Penalties as well, I suppose.
Gibbs-White could be better than Neto, though, right?
If he has that season where he explodes, potentially. But we know Pedro Neto is a performer in the Premier League. I think Gibbs-White will perform in the Premier League. But I know for certain now, I'll put my hat on Pedro Neto being the main guy.
Will Gibbs-White be performing for Wolves?
I think so.
There's a bit of doubt here, isn't there? Am I right in saying 1 year left on contract?
2.
But the club believe that it seems from what I've read, it would need to be a bid that's well in excess of Wolves' valuation at the moment.
Yeah.
But this has been going on for a couple of years where we've been waiting for him since, I always mention it, the debut against us, he came on and changed the game. It was like, who is this wonder kid? And it hasn't really kicked on since, but he did have a really good loan spell at Sheffield United last year.
I think he's matured off the pitch from how he speaks and how he prepares in games. He said himself. Because at the start of last season, I wanted him to actually stay because his pre-season was good and he looked like a good option in the squad. Then we got rid of him and we had even less options. But I'm glad he did have the loan spell now. That was probably better for his career long term, and it might be for us. I think from what they're saying at the minute, it sounds like Gibbs-White just wants to know that Bruno Lage means what he says to him when he says you're a starter for Wolves now. There's a murmur saying like after the transfer window shuts and he's still here, if Lage has been truthful, then he will sign a contract because he has been offered one, which hasn't been rejected or anything. It's just on the table as it stands.
Okay, a selection of 5.5 mids, if I can, guys. McGinn, Ramsey at Aston Villa, Visser and Lewis Potter at Brentford, Michael Elise at Crystal Palace, Dele Alli, Anthony Gordon at Everton, Aronson at Leeds could be interesting, but is a little bit of an unknown, obviously. Ryan Fraser, Joe Aribo, Pablo Fornals, Suj, we might come back to, I think, later in the week. Do any of them stand out as better
Isn't
than Neto?
Socek
I'm not
5.5 as well?
I can't be having Socek as a better option than Fornals, mate.
Socek better than Fornals in terms of goal output and attacking output.
If I said to you now, you got to start with Socek or Fornals, who would you start with?
Well, let me flip that question. Are you don't have a 5.5, do you, James? You don't have Neto because you've got two.
Right now, at this moment,
yeah.
I prepared for this podcast by putting Pedro Neto in my squad to see how it looked, see how it felt, and let Bradley tell me the rest. So right now he's in.
I started Correspondent week with two 4.5s in De Silva and Pereira, and they're bench players for me most of the time. With Neto, though, you want to play him every week, right?
Of course.
And so your question around Fornals or Socek, you want to play him every week. This is the thing, right? I think Vissa possibly, depending on how Brentford line up, is a like for like. But other than that, none of the others that you mentioned there were more interesting than Neto.
No, I'm in agreement. I think we're at a point here where Pedro Neto for me is the best 5.5 in terms of what it could be. I think the yes or no for a lot of people comes down to not looking for alternative 5.5. Does it work in your structure or not? Is where it's at. Because I would rather have Martinelli at 6 than Neto. I would rather have Marcus Rashford at 6.5 than Neto. But do they work structurally? So I've obviously looked at different ways of maneuvering the structure. So it's Neto. I discussed, Bradley won't have heard this yet because it hasn't gone out at the time we're recording. But at the end of the Villa podcast, I spoke as a comparison about Cash or Dean versus Neto, because that's what it will come down to in a lot of cases is possibly 4 at the back or 5 at the back might be what decides whether you're Neto or not. So I'll ask Bradley, if we're comparing with them 5 million defenders, the likes of Cash, Dean, Trippier, Zinchenko, how then does Neto fit in your mind?
I'm ultimately more towards the attacking player, personally.
No personal fan bias by the sounds of that.
No, Lucas Dean's really injury prone as well. Really injury prone.
We can transfer him out in game week 2, right?
It's a waste of transfer already.
I think it doesn't really matter which one. It's if you picture your favourite of the 5.0 defenders is Neto for the start of the season. We don't have to make a season-long choice here. Is that better? Is Neto better than that 5.0 defenders? Because I think that's very much what part of the debate in my mind is. So to put Neto in, Suj, I'd obviously said to you, I'm 5 at the back probably. Now for me under that structure, I can go a bit higher than Neto, is my point. If I go 4 at the back, then I think Neto possibly works for me. So it's not just a Neto choice. There are subplots to getting him in. Yes, I think he's the best 5.5. Suj, Neto versus those 5 defenders?
There's another decision element to that decision making as well. Like if you're talking about Cash specifically, let's say, because Villa start very well, whereas Wolves fixtures a bit choppy at the start. From game week kind of 11 onwards, you've got until the World Cup, you've got a nice kind of block. But
what's choppy about that first 6?
Tottenham away, difficult.
It's one game.
Newcastle
it's 5.5. It's not like you're paying 8 million for him.
Okay, I think Newcastle at home is going to be a difficult game as well. So there's 2 it's in the middle, right? So do you play him, bench him, play him? Are you going to chop him in and out? Whereas if you go in with someone like Cash, you can come off after game week 3 and just move to somebody completely. So if you buy Neto at the start, James, are you holding for as long as possible and then benching in that difficult run, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, West Ham, or are you moving off at that point? But then you get out those 4 games, you're going to want him back again. So
I think whatever Wolves asset you would have once you land at game week 7, you're probably going to want to sell it, unless you obviously say you go with Sarr and you want to keep it, or you're going with Aït-Nouri or something and you're benching it.
Yeah,
I think you come off. Like if you go Neto, you get to game week 7, you've got Liverpool, Man City, West Ham, Chelsea. Looks pretty rough. That said, I had a look at Neto's historical, Bradley. 9 goals. Doesn't feel much joy. But 1/3 of those goals against Big Six opposition. He scored against Liverpool last season. He scored against Chelsea. He scored at the Emirates. Bizarrely, a third of those goals were also against Southampton, which is the last fixture of the really attractive opening six. Again, Suj, if we're wildcarding early, some of us will be wildcarding as early as 3. And then the decision then is, right, it's Leeds away, Fulham at home.
Mm.
And it looks good. They're 2 teams that you probably want to be looked to target. And I think Leeds probably will be better defensively this year. But you can target those 2 fixtures. And then, do you know what? If you're going longer, Tottenham away, Newcastle at home, Bournemouth away, Southampton at home, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Wolves have a good opening 6 fixtures. There's no doubt about that for me.
His ownership has dropped quite a bit from when the game opened. He's less than 20% now, just. And I think by the time the season kicks off, it will be a bit lower than that, probably, in my opinion. So then the question is as well, James, can he hurt me? So is he going to score that big, and is his ownership that high that if I don't go with him in the first few weeks, is he going to hurt me? Because there was a point when the template first came out where it was Gamerish and him were the 2 cheap midfielders, and he was high, much higher than 25%. I thought, okay, if he keeps this way, he could hurt me if he does particularly well. I don't see him going massive in the first 4 weeks, enough that the downside could be huge. So I'm likely to not do it, if I'm honest with you. If he has a good first 7 or 8 weeks, then come game week 11, when you go on that good run up until the World Cup, I'll go back for him. And he's not going to go from 5.5 to 6.5. I'll still be affordable to get to. So I'm unlikely to, because I just think the downside's not that big, and the upside's not big enough to justify it. My 6 million at the moment is Jesse Lingard, but then again, he's a placeholder. It could be one of a number of players.
Answer that for us then, Brad. Do you think going without him could hurt?
Probably not greatly. What's his ownership now? Like just under 20%.
19.9 at the time of recording.
Put it 20.
I think you can live with that. You can't have everybody.
Yeah, no, exactly that.
It's not like Haaland, where if he starts like a freight train, and you don't have him, you're dead already.
Neto is not going to be, for FPL managers, he's not going to be the highest owned player that you don't own. There's going to be someone else higher than Neto in ownership, whether it's Son, Salah, Haaland, whatever. Unless you go all 3 of them. But even then, are you scrimping and you're taking away from a Trent or a Cancelo or a Reece James? Trent's not. Jesus. Neto's not going to be the one. Jesus, of course. Neto is not going to be the one opening day that you're going, shit.
Yeah.
Also, would it be fair to say, Brady, and again, this isn't to put him off because he's 5.5. We're not expecting the world. He's obvious. But he doesn't feel like the sort of player who's going to hit 15 pointers and stuff. I feel like it's goal here, assist there. Is that fair?
I think he's got the potential.
He's definitely got the potential.
Especially if we've changed the system now, I'm going to be very interested.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything in it that he needs open space? I'm thinking to the back end of last season, the glimpses we did have him, the assist against Man City, the goal at Liverpool, very much counter-attacking goals, aren't they? Where those situations actually, with the better fixtures, might not be so obvious.
I don't think so. I think he's a good enough player. I think that's just what we've had to get used to seeing him do. Because he will go past anybody like easily. He breaks the lines for us. He make like the last pre-season friendly, he was making a lot of runs in behind. So usually he's just always ball to feet.
What price would he have been in FPL where you'd have gone, that's way too much? Where you'd go, I can't
judging from the prices this season, I've probably said 6.5.
So 6.5 you wouldn't consider. So you're saying even if he was 6, he'd still be under consideration.
I consider him at 6, but I think with the way the game's priced this season, 6.5, I'd have to really wait and see them. But for 5.5, it's just a gift horse.
Yeah, this is the point. And I think it's almost, it almost feels to me like the opposite of those who are going without Salah, in the sense that no one's going, I think Salah's shit. It's just, does he fit Neto? That's it, I think. Because I think there is a player at 6 better. There is a player at 6.5 better. I don't think there is at 5.5. So it's, am I going with a 5.5 million midfielder? If the answer is yes, I'm going with Neto. That's where I feel like it's at. Okay. Jimenez, Brad. I know he might be missing the start of the season. Did you see anything on the back end of last season or during this summer to make you think he can get back to the levels we saw pre-horrendous injury?
I don't think he'll ever be the same level. I mean, I think he might get a bit more service consistently, but I can't see him being the same level. I really hope he would, but just from watching him play, he still looks like his touch is a bit, I don't know, like it takes him too long, I think, sometimes to move the ball on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's gone as a player, no way at all. But unfortunately, we've judged it over a whole season now. He's not the player that he was prior to the injury, unfortunately. He's
going to be 32 at the end of this season, so naturally, anyway, he might be starting to go down the hill. Yeah.
If he was starting the season, do you give him any consideration?
No, not for 7 minutes. No way.
No, that's emphatic, isn't it? And there's, I feel like he's gone in at 8 before, and a lot of us have been bandwagon starting with him and stuff. So yeah, that's interesting. We're, as we kind of briefly covered, Bradley, expecting, I think we're fairly certain of this, a change to a back 4.
Yeah.
Is this gonna make you, I'll start with, more interesting to watch?
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you've got a front
score in the first half. What James is saying is, are you going to score in the first half?
Oh, that myth's gone. Didn't it go the other way, Bradley?
Yeah.
I think
score in both halves then.
Yeah, I mean, you were at times last year a difficult watch, but then you were at times under Nuno. But when you really hit the kind of bad skids where I'd say the wheels fell off a little bit harsh, I just think psychologically it became clear you weren't going to qualify for Europe. And then the season was dead, right? You never on any threat of going all the way down or anything. But then to pick yourselves up is possibly going to feel a bit different. Are we likely to see more goals land into your net this year, you think?
Probably, I think. I think at the start it might be interesting to see because it will be a new centre-back partnership.
Go on, what's it going to be?
It has to be Kilman and Collins.
That's going to surprise a lot of the listeners. I knew you were going to say that, but that means Conor Coady gone. Well, not gone from the squad, but you know what I mean? Not in the team.
Yeah.
That's
the only reason we've played a back 5 anyway.
It's because of him.
Yeah, because he has to be protected.
We saw Nuno switch to it with a 4 with Coady a lot, right? You're going to tell me, but it was bad, James.
Yeah, when he's gone.
Bit cool though, because he's such a presence for you, isn't he? In terms of his leadership.
Yeah. That can be off the pitch. To evolve on the pitch, we can't carry people like we'll always love him and stuff, but there always a time where there is an end of your days at a club. It doesn't matter who you are.
We're talking about a player who's still in the England squad at the moment.
Yeah, but is he in the England squad for his leadership?
You
can't tell me there's not better English centre half than Conor Lewis Dunk.
Yeah, I know he's been a poke of fun for quite a while from people, but no one's going to tell me that right now Conor Coady's better than Eric Dyer. And I'm going to the bottom level kind of England centre backs in choices at this stage. If you're saying
the likes of Tamori get into the squad, even I can't even.
Tamori is way better than him.
Yeah, I agree.
And was he in the squad? I don't know if he was.
Yeah, he played in the Nations League. Yeah, I didn't think he overly impressed actually, but yeah. Did you go, by the way, Bradley, to the England game?
No, I couldn't get a ticket. I was at work anyway. So
you were lucky, weren't you? Bloody hell. Kilman would be ahead of him, I guess. You'd say we flirted with it last year, didn't we? So saying he might be on the edge of a call up and stuff. So Kilman, I presume, will play left-sided centre back, and new signing Nathan Collins will play right-sided. Is that strong enough?
Well, I think there will be. I've been impressed with Collins from what I've seen so far. He looks like the right-footed Max Kilman, and I quite like the look of that.
Yeah, I think we're looking at more ball playing. I mean, Cody's quite famous for kind of diagonals and stuff.
Them pair can carry the ball.
Exactly.
And they pick the pass to start the attack. That's what
For
I like.
anybody who hasn't seen Max Kilman's goal in pre-season, I'd recommend at the end of this podcast you go and try and find it because that's absurd. Yeah, I was really impressed with Collins when he played against Tottenham in game week 37. Same thing. He's
He's
quite
got a big
happy
aerial presence as well.
He looked very strange actually, watching the Burnley centre half come out and carry the ball into midfield and stuff. Yeah, I think that's a different setup. But the part of me also thinks, Bradley, because those two are comfortable on the ball, actually, ironically, with Coady sitting in between it could have been a really good back three.
We lose presence in attack.
Well, I get that. What we're looking at now is obviously you playing with an extra offensive player, but you're confident as it would stand now, Coady won't start.
I don't think so. I think there'll still be some games where they might shift to a back three, like against the Liverpool maybe, or a Man City. But especially when we're playing like Leeds, Fulham, the first two, we've got to play a back four. I don't see why being so defensive at that point now.
So does this make Jose Sarr, and we'll come back onto the defenders, does that make him less interesting? Because he's creeping into my thoughts. I've got a goalkeeper problem, Suj. I can't decide. No, honestly, I can't decide. It's doing my head in.
I've just got Alisson and then dealt with it. It just puts that question out of my mind.
I can't be doing that.
I think Jose Sarr at 5 million. I mean, if you look at last year's 146 points versus 5.5 million for 170 points or 180 points from Alisson or Ederson, I think Sarr's good value. I think he's the best of the 5 millions.
Better than Mendy?
Maybe Ramsdale.
Ramsdale.
If this is a question that I posed, if you can tell me Wolves will be as good as they were defensively last year with Chelsea, James, I don't know what to expect from them. Thing with Mendy,
we don't know what to expect from Wolves, really.
It's what Brad's here.
It's basically a new team with a new system.
Mendy's not going to get any save points generally over the course of the season. I feel like Jose Sarr picked up a few more save points potentially.
Yeah, we was too reliant.
He does
on
make
him.
a lot of good saves.
Yeah, but then the flip is, I think it's fairly comfortable to say that Mendy will get more clean sheets. So you spin your narrative however you want to.
Yeah.
Yes,
do you think you're going to be solid though, Brad? Do you think you have the same number of clean sheets? That's the question at the end of the day, isn't it? How many clean sheets are you going to
Probably
do?
not.
11 last year.
Probably not, unless magically the new system just fits like a glove. It's just that much of an unknown at the minute. I suspect the back four will just be when Semedo's fit, probably Semedo, Collins, Kilman, and then you'll have to pick between Johnny and Ait-Nouri.
Yeah, so I've got 16 more points than Mendy last year. Mendy got 3 more clean sheets. It feels like that gap will potentially be more this year to me. Plus, as well, Suj, we have to remember that Chelsea threw the towel in for the last couple of months. Although you could make the case that Wolves did the same.
Yeah, Wolves did.
You could make that case. So that's fair. So, yeah, it's probably close between the two. Sarr's got the bigger potential of the kind of 10-pointer in there than Mendy. Yeah. I can't argue that. I haven't decided. Yeah, Sarr's creeping into my thoughts, I would say, I think, Bradley. Any consideration for yourself?
Not for me. That's my FPL way. I'll just pick a 4.5 and just let them sit there unless they're injured, to be honest.
So if you were going defensive, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at Johnny and Ait-Nouri starting the season?
Yeah, they'll start the season.
So Semedo, he's unlikely to make game week 1?
He's unlikely to make game week 1. I think he's close to full training. He'd probably be on the bench at best. Okay. He's not had the minutes in his legs.
So when the 3 are fit, let's assume it's back 4. Who's the fullbacks?
Semedo. And if it's still me, I'm still going to pick Ait-Nouri.
So Ait-Nouri over Johnny for you?
Yeah, I want that.
You're not convinced about that.
I want that left foot. I want that left footer on the left-hand side.
Is he gonna kick on? I think we're waiting for it, Ait-Nouri, aren't we?
Did you see?
We're here again. The price of the defender means that we're not talking about him so much. He's one of the best 4.5s, I'd say. But I'd also put Johnny in that bracket potentially as well. But there's your doubt is enough doubt, I think.
There's a stronger chance for Johnny if he starts the season right back, to stay there for a long time. Just because of how consistent he is. I think Semedo might find him hard to push out. That is the one thing that will make Aït-Nouri more safer.
Are they the only 3 fullbacks you've got currently?
You've got Hugo Bueno, but he's just a kid.
Sounds
He's
like
very
chocolate.
He's very good, but he's just be understood it.
Okay. So Johnny either side, Semedo right, Aït-Nouri left.
It's
Yeah,
Totti Gomez left back as well in pre-season.
So if you had to start with one of them, Aït-Nouri, as in for FPL,
Yeah.
it sounds risky though, based on what you're saying. That it could change any, and we saw that last year, didn't we? How many times do we think, oh, Aït-Nouri's definitely playing, and Marcal played, and Marcal's obviously left the club now.
Thank God.
Harsh. He wasn't that bad, mate.
Jeez, when you got Aït-Nouri on the bench, it's like
he wasn't that good, admittedly. Totti and Mosquera. I don't think anyone's suggesting to pick him at the start over Nico Williams or Patterson or whoever you fancy.
No.
But can they push through this year? Mosquera, I feel like, is particularly interesting because he came in and injuries hampered him straight away. Could he get himself more involved this year?
Well, will he? No, I think because Willy Bolly's still there, he's going to pick Willy Bolly if somebody got injured. I think he's got Coady still there. I think they might end up Mosquera going on loan. Totti can definitely stay. I like Totti Gomez.
I know you were a bit peeved when he come out the team last year.
Yeah, that made no sense.
Obviously, Romain Saissa's gone now as well. But if it's a back 4, technically you've got 6 centre backs. And if you're always going to play a back 4, then someone there is getting absolutely no looking whatsoever unless there's an injury crisis. So you think he'll probably go out on loan?
Yeah,
Totti,
I wouldn't mind it going on loan.
Totti will probably stay. How happy are you that João Moutinho signed on again?
Ecstatic, considering we're still not signed a centre midfielder.
So are we looking at him and Neves in a 2 now?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Dendoncker?
Hopefully going to Everton. We
You say that, but you short numbers in that area again, aren't you?
That's the problem.
How did we have a conversation about all the 5.5s and not rave over Traore, who's sitting there listed at 5.5?
Bradley?
Well, do you just want a 10-minute appearance, guys?
Well, no, talk to us.
It feels like we've raved about him historically in the past as and he wasn't much more than 5.5, was he, James? When we were looking at starting the season with him and that.
I feel like, in all honesty, I've overlooked it because I think that ship sailed where everybody kind of jumped on it last year, and I don't think people were particularly wrong to do it because the numbers did look good to go with what you were seeing with your eyes, and he did start last season like an absolute train. He's never going to be an FPL asset for anybody. In any club at any time, I don't think, because
Nico's got his clip.
Drag it out when he gets hat-trick at Tottenham in game week 3. I mean, that the chances are I will get the winner at White Hart Lane. That sort of thing's written in the stars, no doubt. But Suj raises a fair point, Bradley. Particularly if Jimenez is out at the start of the season.
Whack him up top. Go on.
No. We've done that many times. He's just got no. He makes no runs unless the ball's at his feet. Yeah, he doesn't.
By the way, I love him as a player. And actually, at the time in January, was pretty disappointed that Tottenham didn't get him in. And I would take him again, Suj. Yeah. Honestly, I would, because I would look at it exactly what Bradley looks at him, bring him on with 15 minutes to go, and send him away. But unfortunately, reality that's where it's best as a player. Just push his teams back. You just have territorial, and obviously if you're defending the lead and people come and push on and you bring him on, I mean, just send him away over the top. You don't catch him. He won't score, but you ain't going to catch him either. So, yeah, to be honest, I would still take him as like 6th forward at Tottenham. Is he 6th forward for you, Bradley, or is he better than that?
Probably 2nd, not 6th.
I'm thinking across the board. If we include the attacking mids, if you will, the Neto's, Potencies and stuff, where does he rank at the moment?
I'd probably still pick him over Huang, you know. If I had to bring somebody on to change the game, I'd just get Traore on.
I'm in agreement with that. to be honest.
Get him on.
This is a guy who went to Barcelona in January. Are we just forgetting about him?
What, as an option FPL or just?
No, just generally for Wolves. Forget for FPL.
No, I'm happy if he's going to be an impact sub for a year, because the fee we'll get for him will be tiny anyway. So I'll just, if no one wants to buy him, he don't want to stay, we'll just use him this last year as an impact sub. And he can do what he wants next year.
Is he 1 year left now?
Yeah.
Tiny fee. I mean, I remember it being 30 million. 35 million as the numbers talked about.
Not now. I mean, Tottenham were trying to lowball kind of 15 million in January. I think that's probably what you're looking at now, 15 mil or so.
It says 10 million that accept.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
I think if it's 10 mil, someone will punt it. I think he could be like great for like one of the promoted teams or something.
I think he thinks he's better than that in his head. It seems like. He offered a big contract at Wolves, and he's
never struck me like he's got an ego or anything like that, to be honest, personally.
But he has just been at Barcelona, right? So going to Barcelona, even if on loan,
he wanted to be paid.
Pump up your ego a bit.
He wanted to be one of the highest paid players at the club, which so he must have a big ego. He can't be demanding the same money as like probably what Raul Jimenez signed on, with what Jimenez was giving to the club, or like he wanted to be on more than Neves. I don't know how he'd justify that. Or Moutinho. He just can't justify that because he doesn't have the attacking numbers.
He's never staying.
It seems like it now. It's just completely dead.
Where's the club at as an ownership? I know like your esports team is great.
Yeah, that's what we invest in.
But we're going to go back to that Wolves Slack channel on our Patreon. Is unbelievable. You can't go down, Bradley. I can't close that channel if you go down, mate. Like, honestly, what's the situation with the Fossum family? Because many of us have read monumental debts, and it's worth saying not Wolves debts, just the family debts. Where is it at in terms of the ownership of the football club, and where's it heading?
The way it's been run at the minute is like what I'd see is a slow decline. Eventually, you can't keep running a football club with like what? How many senior players? We've got like 20 with a few kids.
You're lying.
It's more than life. It is more than life. It's really silent. Like it seems silent as well, and no communication's not good.
In fairness, the Collins signing happened quite quickly, and it was like, interested, bid agreed, signed. Happened quite quickly. So it might be a little bit like some of Villa's business where stuff might be going on in the background, but it doesn't feel like it.
No, it doesn't feel like it. And loaning out Silva before you've got the striker, contract situations, but being let in, like Gibbs-White and Neves. Moutinho took forever.
I think in fairness with Silva, I think the club obviously made a huge outlay on him, which wasn't fair on him. It's not his fault that you paid that amount of money for him. I think am I right to say still only like 19?
Yeah,
20 now.
Turn 20.
So he's still at kind of potential stage. It wouldn't have been good for him to have another season largely getting 15, 20 minutes at the end of games. And he scored, I've seen the goal he scored for Anderlecht at the weekend. It was a great goal. He needs that. He needs to go and play in Belgium and get 25, 30 goals this year and come back and feel fresh next year or something. I think that's for me was the right move from the club for him and his development.
It is for him, but then the club haven't gave themselves enough bodies to realistically do it without risk to us. They're hurting us at the same time as helping him.
So therefore, something's got to come in, right?
Yeah, that's why I thought when he went, somebody has to be in. Because we've got like Catrone, he's still at the club, and Bonatini, amazingly.
Really?
And I can't flog them, yeah.
Have they had any pre-season involvement?
No, he left them at home.
Okay, fine. I'm not surprised, actually. That's an older story. What I would say is there's a few where we've said, we kind of caveated a few comments this week, Suj, where we've said, look, they could still buy in this area. Like we're talking about Pereira. Looks almost certain to play number 10 for Fulham. They might add another. That kind of small little caveat. What I'd say is whatever business Wolves do isn't going to impact Neto negatively. The only thing that's going to impact Neto negatively is fitness or his own performance. So nothing that Wolves do in the transfer market can make Neto a worse asset. That would be my opinion. Is that fair, Bradley?
And maybe who's up front? If they're going to shove Podence up front, that'll be a bit.
I'll be honest. If you're kind of going Neto, Podence, Gibbs-White, Hwang, then
you could get away with it, I think.
Like, you're going to struggle. Reality in terms of a team. I feel like you can go either way this year, where it might be that this back four is quite fresh and new and the fans get on board with it and you perform much better. But I also fear that I think the first 11 is good, by the way, but you've already said it. Squad depth's an issue. You start getting injuries come through there.
That's the biggest problem.
I think it could be a scary season.
Yeah,
which is obviously
exactly the problem.
Certain things have to fall into place, like at least 2 of the promoted clubs need to be good, that kind of thing. Everton be better, Southampton be better, the Leeds be better. But it's not beyond reason that you could find yourself in a relegation battle. But I think it probably needs injuries to come in. The big thing's the formation change. Is a positive that had to happen.
Yeah, I'm not worried about relegation unless we get.
I don't think you should be.
But I'm worried longer term that the way the club's been run, like very close to the bone, that they're going to ask for it. We're not big enough to stay in like the Premier League indefinitely. To keep going, you have to keep. They're not. It doesn't seem like them being sustained properly.
Well, this is why I asked about the ownership, because it just feels like it's on a, I wouldn't say a nosedive, but it just feels like it's going that way when a lot of other clubs are going that way, but they're staying there because they find it difficult to compete. Like the West Ham's, Leicester's and stuff are finding it difficult to push through the ceiling. You're now, I think, behind that kind of level where you look at Newcastle trying to do bits as well. I don't see you finishing top half. I don't think. No. I think you'd need to keep players fit all season. Neto, Jimenez, the back four working would all have to fall in place right now. Doesn't mean you can't finish sort of like 12th, 13th. It's probably roughly where I'd see you at the moment, I think, which I don't think would be a bad season. But yeah, I think when Suj, we put those teams in the brackets under outside the top 6, we're trying to push. I feel like Wolves are now behind it. Is that how you feel?
The other thing is obviously the top 6 are the top 6. And then clubs are doing things to get themselves established as Premier League clubs where we start the season and you think the risk of relegation is absolutely nothing. The likes of Aston Villa, for example, I just don't see any scenario where they go down. Even Crystal Palace, even Brighton, Southampton, Wolves, they're probably going to be fine. But a couple of things going wrong and you could still drop down into that relegation battle. Leeds are probably in that same bracket as well. And like I mentioned, some of these clubs, Villa, Palace, they're doing things to establish themselves as Premier League clubs. Might not be top half, might not be challenging for Europe, but established Premier League clubs. And what we're talking about Wolves in terms of ownership and the squad depth is you are on an edge of dropping into that relegation battle that you didn't foresee or shouldn't really be in. Everton are probably in the same boat as well. And all you want your ownership to do is establish yourselves and lay some roots in the Premier League. And you have for a number of seasons, right? What would this be? Season 5 that you're going into? In the Premier League?
Yeah.
And you've been good. You were challenging with us for Europe for so much of last season, but that risk is still there. The risk is still there. So what you're saying, James, I see him behind that pretenders, as you call them.
It's interesting because if we'd have had this conversation 6 months ago, we wouldn't have said that.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly things can turn, right?
Yeah, it feels like that. Is just a little bit of concern. It's beginning to feel a bit stale. But I sum up how difficult of a read I think you are this year. Obviously, I've been asking correspondents for their season prediction. Again, Bradley won't know this. The correspondents, there's only 20 of them, have predicted you to finish in every position between 9th and 19th, except for 18th. There is honestly predictions for you to finish 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 19th. Which says that actually a lot of us aren't too sure what's going to happen here. Mm-hmm. So a few of the guys do think you can finish top half. It's not beyond you.
I can't remember what pod it was on, James, but I said I think Bruno Lage is okay, and he's he knows what he wants to achieve and he's a good manager. And you wouldn't say sharp and take a breath, but your kind of point of view was that the Wolves brigade are mixed on whether or not they're fully convinced, because the end of last season, I think your words were he rubbed people up the wrong way a little bit.
There were
What's
a
your
few
thoughts?
things like I think like Kai Hoover was kind of in the background, but the things he said about him, I think, caused a few people to kind of say that's a little bit over the top actually, because he's a young boy and stuff. You know, that sort of thing needs to happen privately, I think. And I'm not saying that impacted Wolves' results, but it did come at a time where the results were going badly for Wolves as well. I like him. I don't particularly dislike him. I think the change to a back four is good for him, because all our research last summer told us this was how he wanted to play. So he's now gonna do it. Where he abandoned that. You know, like when Conte went into to Chelsea and it was like, I've only got the tools to play back four, and then six games in he went, shit, nah, sod this, we'll play how I want to play. And then they went on and won the title. I feel like Large could have changed a lot earlier. Like, I think once it became clear that Wolves weren't going to qualify for Europe, I think they should have been playing a back four in April and May to help get themselves ready for this season. But look, they've done it in pre-season. Now looks like it's going to happen. I feel like it could go either way, though. I feel like it's the sort of one, particularly with the fixtures Wolves have got, if Wolves find themselves sort of 15th or so after the first six, and then with the fixtures that come, I wouldn't be hugely surprised if there was a change. But I don't think Wolves will find themselves in that position. I expect with the fixtures they've got, Wolves will be top half after the first six. What's your thoughts, Brad, on Bruno Lage?
Some fans have, I think, turned on him a little bit the second half of last season, but I didn't really. I was just more focused on like, well, what's he got to actually use? Like, he's overachieving with what he had at the start anyway.
That was definitely true. Yeah.
Like we all knew he wanted a back four. He didn't get the tools to play his back four. He's signed a new centre back now, which is allowing him to play a back four, but he still needs more. He still needs more tools now. I think I'm happy with him. I just think he's doing what he can with what he's got.
Yeah, I don't think we're having this conversation to say his job's at threat now. I just think
because we played good football at the very start of the season. People was raving about it. We just couldn't score.
Well, the first three games against Leicester, Tottenham, and Man United last season were a joke in the sense that you lost those 3 games 1-0. You definitely shouldn't have lost to us. You definitely shouldn't have lost to Man United. Probably should have won both those games. And Leicester was a very, very even game where they scored a very good goal through Jamie Vardy. So, but then in the games we then expected you to do well, sometimes you didn't, which has been an age-old problem. Actually, you know, Norwich at home, game week 37. I know it's an irrelevant game, but like it's that, right? You drawn at home to Norwich. What was the vibe like in the ground? You obviously would have been
dead.
Well, yeah. So that's
Teemu Pukki was giving Conor Coady a proper rinsing, and it was just like sitting there going, "Do we really need to play this system all the time?"
Do you think interesting? You got Fulham your first home game is game week 2. Do you expect that? What's that?
That Palhinha 1-0.
Oh yeah, I know you wanted him, didn't you?
Yeah.
But he's Portuguese, so it's obvious, isn't it?
Big centre defensive mid. Yes,
he looks like he could be a player. Yeah, we spoke about him a lot with Dara. Do you think the ground will be rocking for that Fulham game?
Probably not as normal.
Yeah, that's interesting because apologies to our non-patrons. Me and Suj had a long conversation about opening day home games and on our Tottenham podcast. And irrespective of first home fixture, the ground should be bouncing. And Wolves feels like one at the moment, like it might not be. And that's the sort of vibe where I'm saying if it starts badly, you might get a turn. That's all.
I don't think it will. If the team sheet comes out and says a back four, I think it might be a bit better.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll know that from whatever happens at Leeds in game week 1, won't we? Where do you think we'll finish, Brad?
Like anywhere from probably around 15th to 10th, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting. That range of the correspondent predictions, Suj, like no other team's got a range like that.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, definitely.
And it's not like I said, it's not dragged down by one person's gone 19th across the board. It's like two people have gone 9th, two people have gone 16th, that kind of thing. Nobody's too sure which way this is going to go.
Yeah. Well, look, Brad, all we can do is wish you luck, and we look forward to seeing how you perform this season and how quickly James and I need to jump on Pedro Neto and get him into our teams. It could be as early as Gameweek 2, you never know.
He's 50-50. It's just about structure for me.
Yeah.
There's no exactly what Bradley said. There's no trap. He's a 5.5 million midfielder. We're not expecting him to break the game or anything, but I think he's the best at that value. It's just whether it works for managers or not, I think.
Fantastic. Brad, do you want to just tell the listeners where they can find you on Twitter or the Bird app?
At Parker_Bradley.
Fantastic. And it's on the screen if you are watching on YouTube.
Smash a like. We'll never say that. Just smash a like.
Smash a like. Subscribe, bell, all that jazz. James's Correspondent Week continues. Where are we going, mate?
As far north as we can go. Northeast, Newcastle United with Simon Bibby. And Suj doesn't know what's coming on this podcast, but something a little bit different.
Well, all I know, mate, is we'll have enough fuel to get back home. That's an oil-based joke about Newcastle.
Sorry, over my head. I was thinking the cost of fuel. I'm not sure you will.
No. So Newcastle coming up next. Obviously, they've done a bit of business in the window as well, and looking to join the pack that James does call the Pretenders. So make sure you are subscribed to the podcast wherever you're listening, and you'll get notified as soon as that episode goes live. Other than that, thanks once again, Bradley. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, Bradley. Good luck this season, mate. Cue music, please, man. Show.